All right, let's get into it then. This is a big story and a good positive story about technology, which is something that sometimes we need, I think. The story that recently a man who was paralyzed has been able to walk again thanks to a digital bridge that wirelessly has reconnected his brain and spinal cord. So
let's just unpack that for a second. What?
What?
What? A digital bridge inside his body. Inside his body that allowed his brain to communicate with his legs again. This is nuts.
Yeah.
First off, can you pronounce his name? He's a Dutchman.
I would like to try, which is Gert-Jan Oskam. How good was that?
It's actually Gert-Jan. Gert-Jan Oskam. Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't matter because this guy will go down in history. This is insane, right?
Yeah.
This is, we're traditionally taught that if you suffer a serious spinal cord injury, it's pretty much game over. You are, paraplegic or even quadriplegic. But we've always had this vision in our brains of how technology will be able to fill in those missing links where we suffer irreparable damage to our bodies. And we're thinking obviously about, soldiers, their reintegration into society, coming home from service and being able to feel again, to touch again. And of course, this is something that never affects most of us. But when it does, it's catastrophic and it's life-changing. And if technology can really fill in the gaps here, it does that thing which, I don't know how you feel about this, but whenever I hear technologists or VCs talk about technology or the investments they make, they always use this phrase, improving people's lives. And it always makes me cringe and always makes me shudder a little bit because I wonder if they really mean it, or whether it's just one of those easy phrases that they serve up to justify investments in sketchy technology. But here is an example of something where it genuinely is improving somebody's life. And that's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Nobody's arguing that this definitely isn't a great use of all this technology that's colliding. To try and explain what's going on here, and I'll do an average job of this, but the brain-computer interface apparently is comprised of 2 electrical implants, one in each in the brain and the spinal cord. So the first implant is placed in the brain area controlling leg movements and decodes electrical signals generated when thinking about walking, which is amazing. The second is positioned over the part of the spinal cord that controls the legs, and the implants use adaptive artificial intelligence to decode movement intentions from the brain in real time and convert them into electrical stimulation sequences for the spinal cord. That's a lot of words, but at least on the highest level ever, I can sort of understand the theory here of what's going on. And the gentleman has said that he noticed improvements within days. So he's since been able to walk, climb stairs, navigate ramps, and stand with friends at the bar. So it just is an amazing thing, isn't it? And, off the back of that, we've seen Elon Musk's Neuralink, which has been kind of bubbling, and he's been showcasing stuff for a while, just get FDA approval.
FDA approval for a human clinical trial. A human clinical trial. I mean, it's one thing putting these implants in monkeys, and I don't know how you feel about that, but it's a completely other thing putting them inside human beings. There's basically the statistic there are at least 42 people in the world now with brain-computer implants, including a quadriplegic patient walking and an ALS patient typing by thinking about keystrokes. Zooming out, the bigger picture here is, in that first piece, it's talking about computers being able to decode the brain signals. So take your brain impulses, understand them, and spit out the correct response on the other side. I want to move my legs, your legs move. That's the first bit. And what it's sort of taking us towards is computers are becoming more and more sophisticated at understanding our own bodies. And there's a lot about our own bodies that we don't understand. But as we come to a greater and greater understanding of this, in my head, this sort of builds towards one of the kind of the big picture ideas I have, which is about the death of the smartphone, which is taking the way we interface with technology from an external device to one we wear to one that's actually inside us. And people think I'm crazy when I say that the phone is going to die. And of course, it won't completely. We'll always have TVs and other things. But inherently, the way that we interface with technology will become more and more spatial, and then it become more mental. And when you look at these news items, you can see it starting to happen, and it feels weird and science fiction-y. But what tends to happen is you have these procedures which are necessary, like cosmetic surgery, like getting your facial reconstruction. People do it for cosmetic reasons rather than because it's necessary. It's an elective procedure. That's, I think, where we're going to end up going with this, where people will decide that they want to have these implants, not because they're quadriplegic or paraplegic, but because it will give them an enhancement, an improvement to themselves that they want, because that is part of their post-human or transhuman wish fulfillment. And I think another part of this is that we're starting to see, gender identity splinter into all sorts of different flavors and colors. And again, whether you sit on the woke side or on the other side, politically, that's going to be extremely complicated to front up to. If, you have a toilet in your school that is for cyborgs, I don't know how I want to feel about that. But you can sort of see that extrapolation, that's kind of where we end up going. It's fascinating.
Yeah. What would you say would be the most likely first cosmetic use of an implant? And if it was available, would you be like, yeah, do you know what? That would tip me over the edge to be like, maybe I will get that chip because I can do this.
Well, there's already people that have done this, right? There's people that put chips in their bodies that allow them to open a door. So you have these smart connected homes, you walk up to your front door, and it's like having the keys in your pocket, open your car, the front door opens, in you go. These have already been in place for some time. Obviously, there are some complications with putting stuff in your body, because your body goes, I don't want that inside me. I'm going to reject it. You can't just put stuff in yourself and expect your body to be okay with it. There's quite a lot of things that have to happen, like very inert metals. You have to have, if you have a transplant, you have to have a lot of drugs to prevent your body from just rejecting the organ. It's not a straightforward, simple thing. But again, we've had 3D printed bones. We have had hip replacements for a very long time now. It's just where things are going. But, a pacemaker to a brain implant, I have a suspicion that it's probably going to be quite a lightweight thing that happens first. But it's probably going to be around biometrics and having a better understanding of your body so you can train better, or you can understand an illness or something like that. It's like the Apple Watch thing, and then moving further inside, becoming more and more interesting. Actually, there was a really interesting Lex Fridman podcast that I've been listening to, talking about nanobots. Oh, nanobots. Tiny little robots that
they go in and can tackle disease and stuff. Can
tackle disease, or build stuff, or build the materials that they need to build bigger bots and build other things so you can build in space. Oh, gosh.
You feel like, I sometimes feel like I'm outside of my body just listening to the world as if I'm watching a film, but like this is what's happening in our world, which is completely mental.
Yeah, and it's really easy to get lost in the details, right? You just get kind of go, oh my gosh, AI can write stuff and I can talk to it, but like go out further, just keep going out further until you can really look at the bigger picture stuff, which is, where is humanity going and how does it shape itself? And it really is like you're witnessing the evolution of a new genus of human being, but at such an accelerated speed. Like snails evolve really quickly, I found out at the weekend. Humans do not, but we're starting to, like really starting to. And I have this optimistic view of AI, an optimistic view of the world, which is that I don't see AI kicking us out and replacing us, but I do see a symbiosis of us and AI in some way that will become inevitable at a certain point. And the reason I think it becomes inevitable is because as a competitive species, the competitive advantage of having AI built in, having implants, having those upgrades will mean that at a certain point, a large section of society will do it because it's the only way for them to survive and to remain competitive. And then at that point, all bets are off. Like the genie's out of the bottle. So I think that's coming.